Hey there viewers, welcome back to the South Main Auto channel. If you're new here, welcome to our channel. Got this 2006 Chevy Impala today. Came in with a check engine light on. So grab our scan tool, plug it in, let's see what we got. Okay, let's see what we got here for codes. Alright, so it looks like we've got a 446 Evap system, vent system performance. Got a code for the fuel tank pressure sensor and a little issue there with the anti-theft. That's a history. How failed since DCC cleared. Well, I tell you what, let's have a look first and foremost at the Evap system here and see what we got there. So it looks like possibly a problem with the Evap vent and a problem with the fuel tank pressure sensor. Those two usually kind of go hand in hand. I guess while we're sitting right here, we'll go back and oops, went too far. We'll look at some data. Now let's see, so it shows the vent solenoid is venting. Again, you're just about out of gas. But I see our tank pressure there. It's kind of high. It shouldn't be running, negative 1.8 inches of water. Let me go yank the gas cap off it and see if that changes. Pull that up in a little graph there, so you can see our min-max values. Don't worry about this little hatchy stuff here. Let me go pull the gas cap off. Alright, that's with the gas cap off. You can see no change there. Let me go throw the cap back on it here. I'll be right back. Well, gas cap's back on. Sorry about that. I had to walk away for a little while here. I had to help out the other guy. So, let's see if we can go back here. Let's see, it said I had a problem with the vent solenoid also. Let's just do quick and dirty because it was the Evap vent solenoid circuit code, if I remember right. We got an Evap vent on here. Evap vent, there we go. Just see if we can at least hear it clicking. Now the air compressor's running. Well, we can see it changing status here. You can't hear it on the video, but I can hear it clicking. Let me go move the camera back there. Just to kind of orient you, the pipe that you see there with the little triangular flange is the filler neck. What you're looking at is the base of the Evap vent solenoid. The red connector is the connector that goes to it. I'm going to go trigger it on and off, see if you guys can hear it clicking. Like I say, pretty much where we were was right in this area inside the inner fender there. It's pretty obvious that it's clicking. Obviously doesn't mean that it's sealing, but it does tell us that the circuit running back there is more than likely good. Okay, so back to the scan data here. What I'm wondering, let's being that Evap, what has me concerned is personally, is that fuel tank pressure sensor, because they should read pretty close to zero. Key on, engine off, gas cap off. So let's see if we can see if it works other than displaying the wrong voltage. I'm gonna go ahead and start this car up. Alright, so what the test that I have it on now is what they call the Purge and seal test. And what we're going to do, I'm going to change some data here. We're going to look at this data, and this is going to tell us it's going to tell us a couple things. Actually, it's going to tell us if our vent solenoid is sealing. It's going to tell us if our tank pressure sensor is functioning, other than displaying incorrectly. So we're going to seal the system. Right now the system's sealed. We're going to pull some vacuum on it through the purge solenoid. We can see that the tank pressure sensor is responding, even though it's displaying incorrectly. So we'll pull some vapors out of the tank here. Putting that back to 0. Now theoretically it should hold some vacuum with a very, very slow decay, is what I would expect to see. So this tells us two things. The pressure sensor does work, even though it is displaying the wrong pressure, so to speak, negative pressure. And it tells us that our vent solenoid is working. Let me purge out some more here. I'm going to go yank the gas cap off, and we should watch that rapidly rise. Okay, you can see where I pulled the cap off. You know, obviously right in this area here, the tank sensor responded, but it's still at atmospheric pressure displaying the wrong voltage and the wrong pressure reading. Well, I just went back to look at the code. I thought originally, see it, so it says P0446 Evap. Yeah, evaporative emissions vent system performance. Okay, I thought it was a vent solenoid circuit, which, you know, these cars also have the ability to throw. So that's my fault. I was misinterpreting that. So it has a vent system performance code. So here's what I think, or the method that I want to use to track this down. We got two things. We got a fuel tank pressure sensor that's obviously reading incorrectly. We have this code for the vent system performance. The only way that I would think that the car, you know, I'd have to look this up to be sure, but it would make sense that the only way the computer is going to know whether or not the vent is working, circuit-wise, it can test that. You know, that's pretty simple. You know, it has a way to, you know, to test the circuit there. Obviously, the circuit works, it opens and closes, but the only way it can tell whether or not it's functioning vent-wise is by what the fuel tank pressure sensor displays. You know, it commands it, you know, full open atmospheric air, and theoretically I would think that the PCM is going to be looking for a, you know, a baseline of, you know, 0 inches of water or very close to that. And with this fuel tank pressure sensor being stuck, you know, at minus 1 point, you know, whatever it was, the computer can only assume that the vent is not functioning. So I would say before we, you know, look at the vent, which obviously appears to work, or check the evap system for any kind of leaks or anything of that nature, we have to straighten out the issue with the fuel tank pressure sensor, because that, I believe, is the key player, you know, in displaying evap data. So I say we take it from there. Unfortunately, the only way to do that on this car is to lower down the fuel tank. There is no access hole in the trunk. The fuel tank pressure sensor sits directly on top of the fuel pump, if I remember correctly, or thereabouts. So in order to test it, you know, we've got to go right to it. Some of you may disagree with that and say, well, we could check it at the PCM. I assume the PCM is just receiving whatever voltage signal, you know, that's being displayed on the scan tool. I may be wrong, but I'm going to take that assumption. The dropping the tank out of these is not too big a job, and I think what we can do is even just let the tank down enough, get our hands up there, you know, unplug it, see if it goes to, you know, 0 volts, and if it does, we'll, you know, quick and dirty, you can just take the 5-volt reference, jump it to the signal return line, and see if it spikes up, and then at that point assume the sensor's bad. So let's see what we got. I don't really quite recall where we left off. I think we're going to pop the tank out of it and let it down. for lunch and then I got distracted. Now we're back. This thing's pretty rusty. Where the gas lines hook up, you touch them, it's going to be a snowball effect. But the tank's almost empty. So it's my thought, I'm going to see if I can just loosen up the straps. Perhaps let the front of the tank down, leave the filler neck and everything on, see if we can just kind of reach up in there just for the purpose of testing and then take it from there. That came out pretty well. I think it's pretty rusty. As long as the gauge is right, the tank's almost empty. So hopefully it'll stay here. I better get a flashlight, see what we got going on. Well, I'd say there's really no sense in pulling the whole tank. Got the front down here. You know, it's got the plastic lines. You know, nothing's kinked or pulling or anything of that nature. I can see what I need to see. Fuel tank pressure sensor is right here in the back. I'm gonna hop up there. I'll turn the key back on. Well, we got it right here in this position. We'll grab the scan tool and unplug it and, you know, see if there's a, you know, wiring issue or if it's just a matter of a bad fuel tank pressure sensor, and we'll take it from there. Okay, so I got the key on right now, so we're going to be looking at the fuel tank pressure voltage, which I probably didn't say earlier. Most Chevrolets I see key on, engine off, you know, with the tank vented to atmosphere like it is here, it's vented with usually around 1.5 volts. So keys on, I'm gonna unplug it. It should go to 0 if I remember right. Okay, so it goes to 0. And now I'm gonna take a jump wire and I'm gonna go across the signal return to the PCM and a 5 volt reference. So that should be the gray wire and the green wire here. Just going to kind of probe these. Plug that in there. That shows us that we've got a 5 volt reference. So our 5 volt reference is good. Our signal return is good. The only thing we would have to test is the ground on the sensor. We can do that real quick. So I just set up our scope here real quick. It's pretty easy to check the ground. I've got the key on, engine off, tank pressure sensor disconnected. I've got the ground wire back probed into the low reference side of the fuel tank pressure sensor. I'm going to use my other probe. I'm going to reach up here, see if we can't touch the 5 volt reference. We should have a good steady 5 volts. And you can see, let's see here, we're going to have to display our data. And our live data is 4.973. See if we can just change the scale here so we can have a look. Get that back down. You can see we're reading steady there. Pull the back probe away. Do that again, just for reference. So you can see there we've got a good 5 volt signal using the sensor ground. So that tells me that we have a bad fuel tank pressure sensor. So I hope that makes sense to you. We tested the signal circuit simply by running a 5-volt reference back down, looking at the scan data. That tells us all the wiring to the ECM is good, and it can receive a 5-volt signal. If it can receive a 5-volt signal, it can obviously receive, it can be pulled from high to low simply by unplugging it. And then we also just, real quick checked our ground, which I assumed worked, verified that, that works. I'm gonna get a fuel tank pressure sensor and get this thing fixed up. Okay, we're able to get a fuel tank pressure sensor. Now we'll have to go through and put it in. This is the one I got, and you guys know I'm a little bit partial to wells. That's the part number on the one we have. Hopefully that's focusing, but we're able to get that today, so that was really cool. I'm just gonna reach up in there with a screwdriver. This is what they look like. I'm gonna see if we can just slide it right up out of the hole without dropping the tank. Usually we can. I have to get a little bigger blade on my screwdriver. There we go. All right. So this is the old fuel tank pressure sensor. It's definitely not original. It looks like it's possibly had a fuel pump in it at some point. This is what the OEM looks like. It looks a lot more like the Wells one as far as the gasket is concerned. You can see this one here. It's totally different. This is, almost exactly, or I would say it is exactly like the OEM. So I'm gonna get some lube. We're gonna lube this up, see if we can slide it in. We'll plug it in and rerun our test and make sure this thing works. Okay, got the new one in. I'll tell you what, I'll stick the camera up in here so you guys can see it. That's about the best shot I can get you. So what we're looking at is the top of the fuel pump. We've got the new fuel tank pressure sensor goes there as a connector, just sits in the top of the fuel pump. This is your pressure line there to give you some reference. You got, I don't know if you can see over here, but your evap line going to the canister. Got a connector back here for the fuel pump. Well, what all you can see up there. I just kind of got the camera wedge there, so kind of gives you an idea where I was. Try to just kind of bring this out, maybe help you understand. So that's the top of the fuel tank as we kind of come out. So that's where I was working, just in reference. All right, well, key on, engine off. This is what I'd rather see, is about that 1.5 volts on the tank pressure. We can see our tank pressure there is much closer to 0 than we were originally. So it's obvious to me that this sensor appears to be working much better than the old one that was in there. So let's just toss this tank back up in, verify it, make sure it works, make sure it reads, and take it from there. car's on the ground. We're just going to go ahead and wipe the codes out of it currently. Alright, codes are gone. Let's go back to where we were. This purge and seal. We're going to go there on our custom data list. Oops, I went to change list, didn't I? My bad. Get click happy. Oh, we'll just grab some stuff here. Fuel tank pressure, there's that. Fuel tank pressure volts. That's good. So we can see we're sitting at, was it minus 0.23, and before we were at minus 1 point whatever. I'm gonna go start it. Okay, car's running. Let's see, we'll seal the system off. Start pulling a vacuum on it here. Shut that purge solenoid back off. We can see our vent solenoid is holding. It is normal to have a slow decay here. I don't know at what rate of decay they would consider a small leak or a large leak. We can see that obviously this works. Let's go ahead and let that solenoid go back open. We can see the rapid decrease here in pressure, or increase in pressure, I guess it would be, or the change in pressure, rather. Our vent solenoid is open, it's venting to atmospheric air. We can see our pressure sensor is back to normal, reading about 1.5 volts, which is what we would expect, or at least what I have seen in the past. Now this does have an Evap service bay test, but I think it needs more gas in it than what we have. Oh no, 15 to 85%. So let's go ahead, we're going to run this test. Let me turn the ignition off. Ignition is off, wait 10 seconds, turn it on. Okay, the key's back on. Alright, gotta prop the throttle. Look at my throttle prop, whatever that is. It'll work 18 to 22 miles. Well, we've got the throttle propped. It's going to take up to 10 minutes, so I'm going to shut the camera off. When this baby's finished, I'll kick it back on and we'll see what our results are. Well, we still got the throttle propped. This is what popped up. Engine running test complete with no failure. Do not turn the ignition off, drive the vehicle. Well, it wants me to drive it for 10 miles. Let me go kick this thing down. Alright, so if we take a second to kind of pop back here and kind of review where we were at. So we had these codes here, the P0446, which was our vent system performance. Failed since it was last cleared and hadn't passed since it was powered up. obviously, because we just started up and drove it in. The fuel tank pressure sensor was a current trouble code, not passed since cleared, failed since cleared, history code, and all that business. Now we also had that third code in there, if you remember correctly, the theft deterrent start enable signal not received. It was failed since it cleared, but it was also a history code. Frankly, I'm not even going to bother looking into this. I did speak to the customer, however, and she has not had any issues with it, not starting or tripping a theft light or anything of that nature. No start stall symptoms, that would be classic of a GM anti-theft. So I'm just going to leave that one. I think what I'll do is just let the lady just take it. I mean, like I said, there's no sense in just, chasing a ghost with that theft light, flicking the key on, 5,000 times, waiting for it to act up the one time when she has actually no complaint of that or, record of it. She did say the fuel pump was replaced, and not that long ago. She was out of town, had a fuel pump put in it. Couldn't recall if the light was on prior. So no way of knowing if the aftermarket fuel pump here, or the aftermarket pressure sensor that came on the fuel pump, was the cause immediately after having the pump replaced. But like I say, we did get the one here from Wells. We put that in. That works like a charm. Works absolutely perfect. So I think I'm going to ship it. I've done the Evap Purge and Seal test multiple times on GM vehicles. I've seen the rate of decay that they have as the vacuum, leaves the tank. And, just basing it on experience, what I see appears to be normal. That real slow, increase in pressure appears to be normal to me. I'm not going to bother getting the smoke machine out, to smoke the whole evap system to verify there's no other leaks or anything, simply because it passed the running portion of the evap test. Obviously I'm not going to go out and drive it, for 10 miles and, waste this lady's, gas and time when simply she can take it and drive it. If the engine light returns for an evap leak, I'll eat some crow and have to just, go with that. But I'm very confident in the repair, and it was kind of neat to see if you just got to take a little bit of time and, kind of understand how the system works, or, kind of theorize about it a little bit to see that a fuel tank pressure sensor can throw codes for the evap vent solenoid when indeed there's really nothing wrong with the vent solenoid. So you kind of have to be aware of, what you're looking at, and, which thing you chase down first, and just be aware that one problem in one system can create a problem somewhere else in the other, in the same system, because it's simply giving false information. And this may have gone maybe undetected if you're kind of in a little bit of a hurry. You put a vacuum on it, yeah, it's changing, it's going up and down, but to actually look at the graph and see where this thing's at. So I guess we'll leave it at that. I'm sure you guys will open it up in the comment box below, and feel free to do so. Check us out on Facebook if you like. Find us on Google Plus too, and if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. So just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.